In 2005, Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Coast of the United States. Its aftermath was devastating. Over 1,000 people were killed, and countless more were lost or injured by rushing rapids or splintering debris. Families were torn apart, homes were destroyed, and the affected areas were changed forever. Coverage of this disaster and a first-hand look into the destruction experienced by victims touched the hearts of people all over the world and brought all of us together in sympathy and support for the victims. This story, along with so many more, both positive and negative, have undoubtedly shaped our world, our perspectives, and our individual lives to be what they are today. Hearing the personal stories of others creates a reverence for one another, even people we've never encountered, and brings us closer together. Now imagine a world where we didn't get to hear these stories. No news, no books, no newspapers, a world without the stories that have shaped our lives. We would all be separate beings with no sense of connection. Sharing personal accounts, events, world news, and ideas brings the world together, and it is writers that are behind crafting and presenting these ideas to the public. Hello, my name is Katie Berger, and I'm conducting an independent study in the field of journalism. Ever since elementary school, I've had a passion for creating stories and sharing my thoughts through writing. Throughout my education, I have fostered and refined this passion, and I'm now ready to pursue it as a career. Mary Kay Ash once said, "Every failure, obstacle, or hardship is an opportunity in disguise. Success, in many cases, is failure turned inside out." The greatest pollution problem we face today is negativity. Eliminate the negative attitude and believe you can do anything. Replace "if I can," "I hope," "maybe" with "I can," "I will," "I must." The optimism, diligence, and persistence described here by Miss Ash is exactly what I strive to achieve on my endeavors in journalism. In my pursuit of a journalism career, I plan to hold these goals and qualities in mind, keeping a mindset focused on growth. Over the course of ISM, I've expanded my knowledge by means of informational interviews and independent research. My first interview was Miss Sarah Mervosh, who was a breaking news enterprise reporter at the Dallas Morning News. Because technology is rapidly developing and more people are looking to get their information faster, Ms. Mervosh told me that publications, including the Dallas Morning News, are focusing on publishing content online. The internet is where publications can reach more people in a shorter amount of time while keeping information up to date. Print is being driven out by online resources, which is impacting the future of the journalism world every day. Obviously, as a journalist, talking to people and getting their point of view on a story is a crucial element in telling it. However, there is inevitably going to be people that simply don't want to comment. How they turn you away will vary, but as a journalist, we have to learn and get back up and try to get a comment from another source. This process builds thick skin through getting used to the process of rejection. My second interview was Ms. Rebecca Silvestri, the executive editor of Plano Profile magazine. Ms. Silvestri, as editor of a local magazine, placed emphasis on the importance of getting out into the community in order to find stories to write about. Although groups do come to the magazine in hopes of advertising their business, the main way that stories find their way into publication is by word of mouth. After Ms. Silvestri, I interviewed my mentor, Stacy Parks, who is the online managing editor at D Magazine. Ms. Parks has experience in many realms of journalism, including crime, which lends itself to many beneficial lessons concerning compassion in talking to sources. She learned firsthand and then passed on to me the importance of reading the situation and using your better judgment before going right in attempts to get a comment on a sensitive story. Having compassion when conversing with any source is essential, because getting a truthful and genuine response, in order to do this, the source has to trust you and at least want to talk to you. As an online editor, Ms. Parks also has extensive knowledge of the formatting and content of online stories. She was able to tell me that stories on the online channel of D Magazine's websites get published at least once a day, so they have a much shorter window in which to be composed and edited. These online stories typically feature more recent information, as people usually go online to get a snapshot of a current event rather than an in-depth analysis of an ongoing phenomenon. My fourth interview was Ms. Christine Perrineau, editor of Frisco Style magazine. Ms. Perrineau, as the editor of a local magazine here in Frisco, taught me the importance of building relationships with members of the community. As she focuses on a close-knit town that is Frisco, she obviously has less new and exciting news to work with than someone covering a larger area would. This being so, building friendships with as many diverse people and groups within Frisco as possible ensures that she finds out about anything happening within the realm of the community. She taught me that making connections with people in the area of your publication is crucial to success. After that, I interviewed Stacey Gerard, the editor of the home and wedding section of D Magazine. This was a very different experience for me because she focused on the less hard-hitting news aspect of journalism and the more glamorous, fashion-forward side of it. However, she was able to provide a look at magazines from an angle that I had never considered before. Ms. Gerard, while explaining the difference between online and print journalism, described sitting down with a magazine as an experience in and of itself. Online stories, while they can still feature images and provide insightful detail, just don't have the same effect as submerging yourself in lengthy, in-depth articles and turning the colorful pages of a glossy magazine. Both are crucial to the journalism world, but they serve different purposes. My sixth interview was with Ms. Sonia Azad, the Emmy Award-winning health and wellness correspondent at WFAA. The only broadcast journalist I interviewed, Ms. Azad was able to give me a look into how being on TV differs from writing a magazine, literally. As I watched Ms. Azad in action, walking into the office, a breaking news story flashed across the TV in the lobby about a police chase in which a local man got out of his car and ran across the highway in order to escape police. She picked up her pace, had me follow her further into the studio, and turned up the volume on the TV, saying, "I'm sorry, I just need to listen to this because I'm going to have to talk about this on live TV in about 10 minutes. In this moment, I realized for myself just how adaptable and composed broadcast journalist needs to be at all times because the news never takes a break. My final interview was with Valerie Wigglesworth, who covers Frisco and Collin County at the Dallas Morning News. Ms. Wigglesworth made me realize that I, as a journalist, have the opportunity to present new information to people who might not even know they needed it. For example, she detailed a story she did about how people with old bathtubs are more susceptible to lead poisoning. And not long afterward, got a letter from a woman whose life had been changed by reading Ms. Wigglesworth's article. She'd gotten her children tested for lead exposure after reading the article, and sure enough, tests showed traces of lead. This gave me a renewed sense of purpose and inspired me to seek out stories with potential to make a permanent impact in my future career. In addition to my interviews, I conducted independent research on social media's changing role in journalism. Social media, since the dawn of the 21st century, has been on the rise, with billions of users worldwide. I learned that, increasingly, social media, especially Twitter, has become a news source of its own, more widely utilized for getting updates, news, than even TV. Having a social media presence is essential for journalists, as it allows us to stay up to date on breaking news as it comes in. Not only that, but it provides an efficient way to provide social commentary and opinions on current events, promote happenings in the community, and reach a larger audience as opposed to a select group of readers. Some posts on social media may even provide quotes for stories, making an efficient way to gather information from sources and tell the world what the people actually think. Social media and journalism share a very much symbiotic relationship, as social media breaks communication barriers and can even publish information faster than professional media groups can acquire it. Next, I will share my research about the purpose of the press. An article by Joseph Pulitzer himself showed me that the press is meant to be the mouth of the common man. It is not the journalist's job to elaborate and publish on the opinions of public figures. People already know what celebrities and politicians think. Rather, journalists need to speak the thoughts in the heads of you and me. They are a link between the public and higher institutions. Journalists should be able to express concerns of the public and bring them into light. The press let individuals of power know what people are worried about and what they think needs to be done about it. According to Pulitzer, a journalist, quote, brings all classes, all professions together and teaches them to act in concert on the basis of their common citizenship. Public writing should appeal to all audiences from all walks of life. Anybody who wants to educate themselves on a topic should be able to. Finally, I completed research on the roles of compassion and objectivity in journalism. As everybody who watches the news knows, reporters are supposed to remain objective, keeping personal opinion out of the story at all costs. However, eliminating personal opinion is not the same as eliminating compassion. A journalist must be able to show compassion when he's telling tough stories. Although journalists hear tragic stories every single day, we must not grow complacent or desensitized by these atrocities. Showing compassion is essential to keeping the humanity in journalism. We tell stories human to human for a reason, and that reason is that we can all relate to the feelings accompanying every story. If we eliminate the emotion in storytelling, would it even be storytelling at all? So, in my future stories, while I cannot blatantly insert personal biases, I will definitely insert empathy, laughter, anger, or whatever the story calls for in order to breathe life into it. I then made use of my research by applying it to my original work. For my original work, I composed an article detailing the Frisco Independent School District, why they do what they do, and how students feel the district could improve their overall education experience. When considering what to write about, I decided on Frisco ISD because I was personally curious about some of the policies that our district has in place, and it would be informative and impactful to my community. First of all, I conducted interviews with Buddy Manette, longtime school member, and Dr. Rick Reedy, former FISD superintendent, to gain their insight on my questions. They were both extremely helpful and helped me answer every one of the questions my articles aimed to answer. First and foremost, Dr. Manette and Dr. Reedy were both able to answer the biggest question for any FISD students: why all of the high schools? How did Frisco go from a 1 high school town in the 1990s to a 9 high school one in 2016? They gave me a look into the past, recalling that the 1990s was the beginning of Frisco's growth explosion. A survey was given to FISD parents asking whether they preferred to have multiple smaller high schools or fewer larger ones, a model like Plano, and the response was overwhelmingly smaller schools. Additionally, Dr. Reedy, in collaboration with a board comprised of city council members and prominent educators, did extensive research that yielded a clear result. Smaller schools where students can get involved are simply better. The information led to the plan to build high schools to hold roughly 2,100 students, regardless of how many buildings that may entail over future years. This policy is maintained solely for the good of the students and stays true to the mission of Frisco ISD, to know each and every student by name and need. The next question my article tackled was why Frisco does not take final exams, like it seems every other school district around us does. Dr. Reedy explained that with STAR testing and AP exams, both forms of state-mandated and required standardized testing, on top of finals, there was an over-reliance and overabundance of testing in Frisco schools. With all of these different tests required of students, the district was spending more time testing students than teaching them. Because teachers have a certain amount of course material they are required to teach, and finals were interfering with that, Frisco administration figured if they can't get rid of state-mandated standardized testing, why not do away with some of the excess testing that they can control, being finals? Thus, final exams were eliminated. My last major question was about Frisco's retake policy, under which a student can retake or redo a major grade for up to 85 points. Why does Frisco allow retakes if there will inevitably be none in college or the professional world, and what was the reasoning behind establishing it? Dr. Reedy, again, provided an in-depth explanation on the background of the policy, as he was one of the key players in instating it. He explained that Frisco's goal in giving any test is mastery, and that we should be willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that every student achieves mastery. Why should it matter that it takes a certain student more time than another to achieve mastery on the same material? However, the policy states that the retake score cannot go above an 85 simply to prevent students from using the retake as a crutch every single time. The final component of my original work was getting student responses to all of the above topics. I sent out a survey to all Frisco High students asking their opinion of what Frisco ISD can do to improve their overall education experience. And there were several results within the parallels within the results, For example, the majority of students like the fact that Frisco does not take finals because it saves them stress and anxiety. Additionally, the stress associated with school and homework is the majority of students' least favorite part of school. And most students, when asking what suggestions they would make to the Frisco ISD school board, simply said, get rid of the busy work and give us only homework that is absolutely necessary to our development in the class. My original work taught me how to go about gathering sources for an article, as well as how to approach these sources in order to optimize information I receive from them. It also allowed me the creative freedom to develop my own distinctive writing voice while keeping me objective. My mentorship this year is with Stacy Parks of D Magazine. Ms. Parks and I have only recently begun our mentorship, but we have many amazing opportunities planned for our time together. Ms. Parks and I have planned for me to sit in on editorial meetings for the magazine in order for me to see how different departments within D work together to create the final product, as well as the steps of the process of publication entails. As she is an editor, she has also offered to help me edit my own original pieces and even offered up a chance for publication on the D Magazine website. This publication opportunity may be one that I make the most of for my final product later in the year. Furthermore, she will allow me to fact-check pieces for publication on the D Magazine website so that I may become familiar with the fact-checking process. Lastly, she has offered to teach me how to write in APA style, the format used for any piece of journalistic work. She teaches APA style at the Mayborn School of Journalism at UNT, so she was kind enough to pass her extensive knowledge on to me. Journalism is an industry that never stops affecting lives all over the globe. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, our world keeps turning and things keep happening. It is up to journalists to write it down in history and make sure nothing goes unseen. It seems like an intimidating task, but I'm up for the challenge. Thank you.